boy. I don't know why it defaults to top message when I want to see all the comments. It's crazy. Let's see if I can get this position right. For those of you on the replay, I'm just waiting for notifications to go out. Another impromptu. I got some time on my hands, so. Salud. What's going on, man? Waiting for my turn to load. I'm on time. They're late. But since they have an earlier appointment time, I have to wait, so go figure. Go figure, such is life. And thank you for that thumbs up already. Now that's a good spread. One viewer with one thumbs up. I appreciate that. Ah, more coming in. What's happening? Are we entertained with what's happening in LA? It's time to swap them out. You know, it's done. It's done. Time to put the fresh one in. Is that not going to work? Or is just nobody talking? It's fine too. You can hear me around my mouth. Is my audio okay? It's too hot. I'm not turning the truck off, so. It is Texas after all. What's up, Will? Alright, it's working then. Right on. Well, I'm sure that you're dialed in on what's going on over in LA right now. It's ridiculous. And those people out there involved in a riot are going to get everything that they got coming to them. They are not supposed to be here, and they're going home. And that's all there is to it. Now you can go throw a rock or set a damn Waymo car on fire or whatever. It's not going to change the fact that you're going to go home. You know, you're just going to go home with a bill to pay. You know, here's what it is. I heard they're calling the oh yeah, taco. No, if you're illegal, they're eventually gonna get down all the way down the list. But yeah, the violent ones are going first. That's a fact. It's already been happening. But it's going to get down the list. They're going to go home. And look, it's not like I can't sympathize with people wanting to make a better life for themselves. I get it. I get it. But the problem is that these liberal, progressive, bleeding hearts are destroying our middle class and our way of life as Americans. And that cannot be allowed to continue. We've tried it their way for a while now. It does not work. We need a return to sensibilities and the rule of law. And that's all there is to it. We cannot allow our generation of Americans not to be able to go out, afford a home, afford a good paying job, because that retards everything else in their maturation process. That people are delaying longer and longer to have families. We're not making enough American babies, and it's collapsing our society. And importing infinity migrants to fill in the gaps is not sustainable, because even as Britain found out with Labour Prime Minister Keir Starmer, he said that when we were told that the net migration was a net positive for society, it turns out that was a bunch of bullshit. That's coming from Labour Prime Minister Keir Starmer. So He's got the data. We have the data, and where you come from matters. Your culture matters. You can't just plug anybody from around the world into the system, into society, throw them in there, just to throw them into the grinder, so they're going to pay into the social services, so they can start paying for boomer Social Security. It doesn't work. Yeah. And it's not like, and see, that's the most aggravating part about it. It's not like rank and file Americans are against blanket migration. No, it's not the case. It's illegal immigration. Legal migrants it's not even the same thing. They've been vetted, and they've been offered and invited. They prove themselves worthy to be citizens, and that they're good actors, and they're going to behave themselves and not be a drain on society as soon as they show up. So it's not the same. It's not the same. You want to say big interest in workers? Well, too bad. Build more robots. I don't know what to tell you. I'd rather have the robots work in the fields than the illegals who are out there shitting in the fields, and that's how we get breakouts of E. coli in our produce. Literally, that's how they do it, because they're shitting in the fields. You know that, right? A lot of us are truckers. We've done picks from the produce side. You back in right there at the farm, and they literally just pick the vegetables and they're loading it on the truck. Well, when I say picked, I mean they literally just been hand-picked. And all that entails. They didn't go out there and wash the veggies before they loaded it on the trailer. You know that. So when you're getting weird diseases like Listeria, E. coli, and some other shit, yeah, it's a problem. Well, thank you, Oxy. Uh-oh. What's this one? How do I get a big titty illegal immigrant girlfriend, bro? Well, we're focusing on the culture difference of tracks from the legals versus legal army. Yeah, well, it is what it is. They're gone with Brexit. Yes. They do. Look, again, it's not that I can't sympathize with these people and realize they're out here trying to work for a better life, but that's being an economic migrant is not the same as actually being an asylee seeker, right? Wanting a job it's not the same thing as being actively hunted by people in your country and killing you and your family. It's not the same thing. People finally showing up to get loaded. Good. Yeah. And like I said, a lot of this, when I did drive in and a little bit of reefer back in the day, I witnessed this myself, man. They do. They're busy picking the fruit or the veggies or whatever off the ground. They're not provided adequate facilities out there in the field. So if you got to go, you got to go, right? It is what it is. But again, that's what happens when you use illegal labor and you treat them like a bunch of serfs, and there's no such thing as OSHA or good working practices or good manufacturing practices. It's just whatever the hell the farmer or the rancher wants, that's what they get, because their workers can't get out of line, because they'll turn them in themselves and they're back at square one. So they have no recourse. They are legit being exploited by the I'll tell you what, when the business owners started getting strung up by those ball sacks and made very public examples out of, that's when we're going to see a lot of the self-deportations, because it's just like a stray dog or a cat. If you're out there putting out free food and water on your porch, well, you're going to get every stray animal in the neighborhood out there to go eat the free food. Well, people are no different. You have to identify what the incentives are. And in this case, it would be economics. They're not fleeing violence or persecution or anything like that. They just want to work. And that's honorable, but not at our detriment. It's not, which it's been for quite some time. So, and that's why we're seeing the self-correction. But you dry up the incentive of work by making very public examples of these business owners, by punitive fines up to and including confiscation of their business for hiring illegal labor, then there won't be any jobs to be had, and they will inevitably go home because there's no point in being here. That's the true remedy to the situation. You go after the business owners that are instigating all of this because they're addicted to cheap and illegal labor. Once we solve that, a lot of this goes away. And all that means is we got right with the law that's already on the books. That's all it means. Learn this. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Tyrannus. Walmart ain't paying shit, grocery store ain't paying shit, wholesale ain't paying shit. Kind of like the market is a book. I'm just saying, guys, that's all it is. You're already seeing that in trucking. A lot of these shitbag foreign trucking carriers that were hiring their friends from overseas to come over here and drive for pennies on the dollar, knowing that they could be taken advantage of. And it had always been a requirement to be able to speak and read English to the point where you can converse with a law enforcement officer. That was always a criteria. Obama is the one that lessened that criteria, illegally, mind you. He can't just wave the magic wand, right? Because these are policies that were already agreed upon with Congress when they codified it into law and when they created the FMCSA and the DOT. Allowing non-English speaking drivers into the country and just giving them CDLs goes against the safety-minded culture of what they were trying to implement with the FMCSA. Just like our ELDs, right? That's all they label our ELD as a safety feature. Well, it's all in English. How are they keeping track of the logs? How are they reading the road signs? You know, why are we getting dumbasses with the GPSs turning down bike paths to get to a customer? Right? Reading and writing English has always been a requirement. And it's ridiculous that it took up to now to put the kibosh on that shit. But here we are. And it is what it is. You know, again, I'm not bursting their bubble and dissing their hustle, but it's not going to be at our expense. You know, they can come and work with us as long as they're qualified. And that is just a basic qualification. And I don't know what else to say about it. But that's just an our aspect in trucking. But you can expand upon that across the U.S. I mean, it's basic stuff that you got to be a legal migrant to have a work visa, temporary or permanent, to be able to work in these United States. You know, it doesn't make any sense. It hasn't made sense for a long time. And see, this is the problem that we're dealing with in LA right now. It's nullification, and this is the exact same problem that we went through in the 1860s with the Civil War. Nullification. The federal government said, you need to do this, this, and this. We have jurisdictional supremacy. You will do what we tell you to do in this regards. And the states, cities, and counties went, nah, we're going to do our own thing. Come make us. Well, Lincoln did. And we're going through it all over again. But now it's with, why is it always the Democrats starting this shit? They don't understand. Yeah. The concept of a sanctuary city or a state is illegal. You don't just get to snub your nose at the damn law. You cannot tell the federal government, hey, we're not going to enforce these edicts. You know, after all, what happened with Texas during the Biden administration, right? We had the reverse of that. The Constitution and federal law mandates the executive branch to enforce the laws. All right? Obama's DACA, which was an executive order, not law, an executive order, was finally deemed unconstitutional here within the last year and a half. But all that time later, going through the process, they got away with it. Well, you and I knew that was always illegal. You don't have deferred action on enforcing the law. You enforce the fucking law. Across the board, fairly and evenly. But they weren't doing that. So these dreamers got to stay even longer than they were supposed to. And again, it's not their fault. You know, if they're a little kid brought to the country, they don't recognize the country. You know, it's not their fault. It's their parents' fault. But it doesn't change the fact that this many people added overnight and not assimilated to the culture and not adhering to fundamental aspects of what it is to be American is destroying our society. It's also causing a housing crisis and everything else that we're going to lay down. It's actually affecting our young people and delaying their families and baby making opportunities. And that's why our birth rates are so abysmal. You're not going to go out there and start a family if the housing cost is too much. And that's all there is to it. The reason the housing's too much is because we got too many fuckers aren't supposed to be here gobbling up all of the affordable housing that young people would normally obtain earlier in their careers to start a family, and then through their lifetime they would, sell and upgrade their homes, right? But without that starting point, they can't get the fuck out of their parents' house. And it's hard to make babies when dad and mom are out on the couch watching Netflix and you're trying to get busy. All right? It's just not the way it works. You're right, Atlanta. Yeah. You take away the incentives, they go home. And it's a damnable thing because you're going to get labeled all kinds of hateful words, but you have to look out for you and yours first. We can't be concerned with every sad sack of shit from around the world. All right? All we can do as citizens is fix what's going on with ourselves, our family, and then our neighborhood, and so on and so forth. We can't be worried about what's going on in Armenia or Azerbaijan or Ouagadougou or who gives a fucking stand, right? I can't be bothered with that shit when I got enough on my plate right here raising my kids and keeping my household afloat. I can't be worried about their situation when I got enough on my plate. But if I focus and get my shit right, where I'm not a burden on society, and my neighbors do the same thing, that's where we have prosperity. Right? But that's part of American culture that's being eroded. If we only receive thick Latinas and petite Asian women, immigrants, liberal white women will form as history. Hey, don't forget the Ukrainian chicks too. I'm just saying that there's going to be a bumper crop of available Ukrainian and Russian women right now. A lot of guys are dying. A lot of young guys are dying. It's unfortunate, but the side effect is there's a lot of marriage age available Ukrainian and Russian women. That's why you tune in for putting the positive spin on those things, Tyrannus. And I think my damn chat. I don't know why YouTube does this. I really don't. There you go. So yeah, my family is from California. I was born in California, Southern California, and now I moved when I was really young, but I still listen to my father and my uncles and aunts talk about what California used to be like. It was the Golden State. It was a land of opportunity. You had affordable education. There was always, you did that. There was opportunities for a good job, and everything was affordable. And then Vietnam happened, and they did a lot of other hinky shit. Opened the floodgates over in Tijuana, and just dumped millions of illegals practically overnight. Well, they got to live somewhere, right? So they snatched the ball of the affordable housing, living 5 families to a single family dwelling, and they didn't allow them to build more homes because of environmental reasons. And so housing prices skyrocketed. Well, no shit. It never should have happened. California is a fantastic state, and literally the Democrats were handed by their forefathers paradise. Here is paradise. We turned the desert into an oasis. We turned the desert into fertile farming land with abundance of water that we've directed from the north, from the mountains of the north, and we let it flow to the south. And California became lush and beautiful. And they fucked it up. They fucked it up. And it didn't have to be that way. Did not have to be that way. So yeah, it's coming to a head in California. It's long past time. Karen Bass, the mayor of LA, should be arrested. In less than a year, she has allowed LA to burn to the ground twice. Twice. She did that. By completely mismanaging her city and her resources. And just being corrupt in general. Basic shit. There's a fire season in California. You make sure the reservoirs are full so the fire hydrants will work. So when the sparks inevitably land with the Santa Ana winds, you have the friggin' water to put the fires out. Instead, they allowed some people to buy the water, and they turn on the fire hydrants, they got mud coming out. Well, the people, especially over in Malibu, paid damn good money in property taxes to make sure their services were paid for like fire protection. It's fucked up. She should have done time for that. And now she's doing it again. Now she's allowing LAPD to go in there and help some of the bullshit, but it never should have got to this point to begin with. ICE and the FBI were executing a lawful warrant. And Karen Bass pulled back LA's resources and allowed her city to become under siege with the illegals. And not only that, she's calling for an exacerbation of the violence, and so are other city council members over in LA. These people should be arrested. You don't have that luxury. You cannot call for violence, especially when you're a government official. Because now you're putting an authority, what would be a good name for it? You're lending credence to what the people are doing in the streets. They're legitimizing the violence in the streets for the people that aren't even supposed to be here to act up and get out of pocket with federal agents. I mean, it's just, could you or I do that? Would we get away with it? Will we have a mayor of the second largest city backing us up? Hell no. Hell no. They're giving special treatment to people that shouldn't be here. And it's draining even more taxpayer resources with this stupidity. And it needs to stop. Newsom is not off the hook either. He was sitting on his hand. Trump actually had to call out the National Guard in California because Newsom wouldn't do it, even though LA was devolving into escape from LA. I'm waiting for fucking Snake Plissken running out of a burning building, wearing his eye patch and all. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Reach such a level that intelligent people will be banned from thinking so as not to offend the imbeciles.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. We, as citizens, have to stop giving a fuck what these people think about us. We know who we are. We know what we're about. They want to go out there and scream racist or you're a bigot or blah, 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 blah. I don't give a shit. Being called names is not going to paralyze us from allowing to take action to keep society from falling down around our ears. That's why I created the slogan, you don't debate Marxists, you defeat them. There is no more debate. This, what we're seeing, is a direct result of Marxist revolutionaries. And they should no longer be tolerated. They are disintegrating our society and turning us into fucking apocalypto. And it needs to stop. We have the manpower and the will to shut that shit down so we can have a return to normalcy. You don't debate Marxists. You defeat them. They are an existential threat to the way of our life.
Come see me, you won't last. What the fuck? Hold on. What is this? You're an idiot and don't have guts to see the horror being caused. Go wash your overs. Who are you talking to, Snyder?
I don't even know who you're directing it to, Snyder.
Do you have a brain?
Well, thank you. Go Oakleys. See, this is what I'm talking about. I don't even know who the Snyder guy is. There you go. That's what I think about you, Snyder. You're not going to bully people for doing the right thing. Whatever. You're not going to intimidate me, bro. It ain't going to happen. I know I'm correct. And you know what? Millions of other people are like-minded know I'm correct too, and that we are correct. Why do you think Trump got into power? This craziness is going to stop. It's going to stop. Well, that's certainly an opinion. Not a correct one, but it's an opinion. Disagreeing with you does not make me stupid. And you haven't even laid out where we have a disagreement. Fact based on what you said. Okay. What's up, Charles? I know you ever what this is what I get sent, man. I get people over here with the Pee Wee Herman defense. I know you are, but what am I? You're a fucking retard, dude. That's not an argument. Just saying, oh, you're stupid and you're a poo-poo head does not take away from what I'm saying, and I am correct. I am correct. 100% correct.
These people that come on someone's channel and talk shit to us.
No, I don't mind people disagreeing with me. It is what it is. Yeah, but they got to be better about it, right? You want to have a dialogue? I can be respectful, yeah, but I match energy. I match energy. I'm not a turn the cheek kind of guy. You come at me sideways, I'm going to come at you harder and show you how fucking retarded you're being. He just says I'm an idiot, but he doesn't explain why. Why does he disagree with me? Where is the disagreement? I don't know. I talked about a lot of different shit here recently. Yeah. Having a debate hones your argument. That's got to be one of the most American things about our society, is having a rigorous debate. And the best arguments win at the end. But you see, the Marxists don't want to have the arguments because their ideology is retarded. Because they believe in things like open borders, a globalist society, no borders in general. Let's put it out there. They don't want to recognize any borders because they want to be citizens of the world. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. They don't believe in private property. They're the ilk out there with Klaus Schwab. You own nothing, and you would like it. We'll all just be a world full of renters. Oh, that ain't for me, man. That ain't for me. That's not an American way of looking at things. I'm gonna go out there and carve a little slice off for me and mine. And I'm gonna do it legitimately. And there's nothing wrong with that. Well, thanks, movies. I'm not always. Depends who you talk to, right? I can get a little Twitter faded. I'm drinking my coffee right now, so I'm a little caffeinated right now. But I do have a lot of detractors, and that's fine too.
Just daydream. You wear glasses for like Cyclops from X-Men. You about to shoot lasers from your eyes.
No, it's just to contain all the sexiness behind the glasses. You can't handle it, so I got to put the glasses on. I'm just saying. Well, thank you. When I got the glasses, this is the darkest tint they had. I am due to get new glasses. I want to get Ray-Bans next. I like the Ray-Bans. I like the Oakleys, but my face is shrunk, so I don't need quite as big as glasses, so I want to go back to the Ray-Bans. But yeah. So Snyder, if you're still here, please explain to me what laws that we as citizens can just outright ignore without getting in trouble with the feds, state or county locals. What law can I just fuck off and expect the mayor to back me up on? You know, it doesn't make any sense. Jaywalking, right? Yeah. Wish I had his voice. Have you heard of the Ray-Ban Meta? I have not. Well, congratulations, Charles. That's awesome. Hypothetical First, Second, and Fourth Amendments to the Constructio. Listen. You cannot quote the law and the Constitution to me when California is openly out there claiming they're a sanctuary state, and then you have cities claiming they're also sanctuary cities. Don't quote the law at me, bro, when you have the states committing nullification to the federal government at the upper echelons of the state government. That's not how it works. You don't get to quote the law when the state is actually breaking the law. That's not how this works. You realize that, right? The concept of a sanctuary state or city in itself is illegal. And they have exacerbated the issue of the illegals flowing into this country because they're not enforcing the laws. So you don't get to break the law, cause the problem, and then come back at me that we're not following the law. That's not how any of this is going to work any longer. That shit is for like 5 years ago. Not right now. That is done and gone. Now, we're in the find out phase. You already did the fucking around. Now we're in the finding out part.
Yeah. Let me get a copy. The smart glasses, I like the question. Freedom of speech is pretty ignored these days with the Gaza, Israel.
Yeah. It's true.
You blow it off, well done, shows you truly are. You don't know what the laws are. Who raised you?
My parents. You know. No, what I'm saying is, you don't get to break the laws, and then when you get to the find out part of the FAFO dynamic, and then claim that you're protected by the law. You don't get to break the law and then throw the law book at somebody. You understand what I'm saying? It's not how it works. You've already broken the law. So you cannot shield yourself with the law that you are actively breaking. Is that making sense to anybody else? Or am I the only one that's figured this shit out? You're not married? Well, that's a shame. You should. I think Jeff was a woman. Well, Marxists are definitely giving off the feminine. Communism, Marxism, socialism, it's all feminine energy. There is no masculinity in cradle to grave, totalitarian, authoritarian systems. That's feminine energy. Are you wearing a hairpiece? No, this is my real hair. See? That's my hair. Okay, well, I mean, I'm not going to throw my nutsack on the glass to prove you, but whatever. Cool story? These people, man. That's what happens when you open yourself up to the internet, man. You just don't know who's going to show up. A lot of you are cool, but then we get some morons like this. And he has yet to address anything I've been saying other than you're a big poopy head. What about the First, Second, and Fourth Amendments? Well, what about them? We're not stifling anybody's freedom of speech. We're not taking away anybody's firearms. What the hell are you talking about? Look in the mirror. Well, I'm looking at my camera. It's kind of a mirror. I think I'm looking pretty good today. What's your point? Cider, I could do this all day, dude. I live for the argument. You're not going to win. You haven't presented anything other than you're being a meanie doo-doo head, and that's stupid. It's a stupid argument. What's up, Heather? Good to see you. Nah, man, it is what it is, right? I got white there. I got some white right here, right? I got my silver wings coming in. Just good genetics, I guess.
Hey, I got disconnected. Did you reply to my comment? How old am I?
I'm 49. How about you? You know, we could sit together and buy some drinks, get to know each other better. Gaines, you know, but I don't kiss on the first date. I'm just saying. But no, I am 49. Knocking on the door 50. You know, it's funny because I still remember being 29, knocking on the door 30, and thinking, oh my God, my life's about to be over. Oh, they'll be 30 again. And then you wake up one day, it's like, oh shit, I turned to my parents. It's just my turn. Oh, your turn. You're comment about Gaza. All right, let me scroll back up. Well, thank you, Tarek. 35. Oh, right on, man. Sometimes it zips by, Gaines. Freedom of speech is pretty ignored these days with the Gaza-Israel stuff. Oh. I guess it depends on what you're talking about and how you do it. If you're like a Hassan Piker, here's the thing about Gaza, right? I sympathize with the Palestinian people, but I also sympathize with. I really don't have I don't really have a dog in that hunt. You know, what they're dealing with each other is a blood feud. But what I can say is that Hamas was declared a terrorist organization. Because they're terrorists. And I would like to point out that with all that's happening in Gaza, to the best of my recollection, I haven't heard any of this happening in the PLO controlled, Palestinian controlled Gaza, not Gaza, but the West Bank. This is only happening in the Hamas territory, not the PLO territory. The Palestinians that I'm aware of in the West Bank are just fine. Now, somebody more clued into the Middle East process, I mean, with the shit going on over there, correct me if I'm wrong. But this is only with the Hamas territory that we're dealing with this.
What do you think about the protesting out here in California?
Protesting I have a problem with. When it evolves into a riot, then you have to have the authorities come in and quell it. You know, protesting is America's apple pie, but what you don't have the right to do is to assault law enforcement or people in general and destroy property. You don't have a right to do that. So when you cross the line from protest to rioting, then you need to be arrested. After all, they interfered with a lawful warrant that ICE and the FBI they were initiating. And then a flash mob appeared, and then the rest is, I mean, the business owner trapped ICE agents within the business, and then a mob showed up. How did you think that was going to end? And now they're out there throwing cobblestones and cinder blocks at authorities and people from overpasses, trying to kill people. That's how you kill people. You're throwing bricks and shit off of overpasses to, you know, on the highway. And now you're burning the city to the ground. I mean, how do you think that? That's not a protest, that's a riot. I think we're in the birth pangs of it, yeah. We have been for a while. It goes in phases, man. First, you had the differences in culture, right? In this case, you have the constitutional nationalists, right? The people that believe in the Constitution and the American way of life. And then you have the Marxists. They're not nationalists, they're globalists. And we don't even speak the same language anymore. The definitions of words have been changed, like racism. You know, you ask somebody that a national, you ask them what does racism mean? Well, it's like, well, any one group of people, any in-group of people believing they have supremacy over another, or that they're the best, and so on. You ask a Marxist, they're going to say, well, racism was a political ideology created by capitalists, and it's power plus privilege equals racism. It's not even the same terminology anymore. We don't speak the same language. And from there, the balkanization. Red states get redder, blue states get bluer. Right? The majority of the people leaving California for the other states like Idaho, Arizona, Utah, Texas, Tennessee, Florida. The same thing with New Jersey, New York. It wasn't Democrats leaving for Florida. It was the rich Republicans. So we're balkanizing. And then we're in the nullification phase, where you have the centralized federal government is not being adhered to by the states. And that's what a lot of these blue states have been doing. And chief among them is California. It's the largest, right? So they think they can get away with it the most. So now we're dealing with the civil unrest part. Eventually, if this doesn't get solved, it will be a hot war. And it won't be like the Obama movie where Texas and California are teaming up against the federal government. I can guarantee you that. We are not joining California in a fight. We may be fighting each other, but we're not teaming up to take on the president. Yeah, you're right, Gaines. Gosh dang, old man, you turn to the dust. I guess I can go deeper into it. You can do your own research about the West Bank. Yeah. Well, like I said, I to my understanding, Gaines, is the PLO, Yasser Arafat's, PLO is in control of the West Bank, and Hamas took control of Gaza. And in my understanding, that the people in the West Bank are just fine right now. It's only the Hamas-controlled territory of Gaza that, by the way, they're the ones that attacked the Israelis on October 7th. They had no business attacking Israel. When Israel controls your power, your water, and your economy, you're basically living on a reservation. They had no business attacking Israel. I don't know. And see, I understand the thought process. They thought that if they instituted this attack, and they would get a big enough response out of Israel, it would unite the other Islamic nations to come save their ass and start their jihad, right? To finally get factions like Turkey and Iran and Hezbollah over in Lebanon to interfere, and possibly Syria. But in Syria, you know, Bashar al-Assad, he was deposed. And I actually like what Trump did. He's handing the new leaders, and I understand where the new leader of Syria came from. But when Trump went over to the Middle East, to the Sunni-controlled nations of Saudi Arabia and the UAE and some of these other places, they asked them, hey, Syria has been devastated. They're trying to pull their society back together. We don't want them to devolve into a terrorist state. Would you lift the economic sanctions on them so they have some breathing room so they can rebuild their society? And Trump was like, you know what? I'll give them a chance. We'll lift the sanctions on the new Syrian government. We'll see what they do with it. I like that. I like that. So hopefully Syria stops becoming a basket case. And you know what? If we show the Syrian government a little love, maybe they'll be more aligned with the USA instead of Russia, right? Because Syria has been a Russian vassal state for quite some time because the Russians wanted a warm water port out of the Mediterranean. The only other warm water port they had was over in Crimea, and for them to get out to the Mediterranean, they have to go through the straits over in Turkish-controlled waters. So that's what they were using Syria for. So even in national interest kind of viewpoints, it would behoove us to make friends with Syria. And when we're not out there killing people over some bullshit, I think that's a good thing. So I hope it works out. I truly do.
Always taught one nation under God for one nation under God in California. Yeah, exactly. So you're saying we might be transitioning to a war against our own government?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's happening. Look, just because I see a thing happening doesn't mean I want it to happen. I need to make that perfectly clear. I don't want the violence to happen. But having an understanding of why it's happening is a separate thing. Ours is cultural. And for years, this is why I have said that Marxism, being the eternal revolution ideology, is an evil ideology. There is no satiating a Marxist. They will always have an oppressor and oppress. So even if you fix a legitimate societal injustice, they will just go on to the next thing and cause more and more instability for their never-ending revolution. And that's a problem. At some point, you have to learn how to get along with each other and not kill each other. You have to learn to work together as a unified civilization. And that's why I've always said that this whole bill of goods that the politicians like, diversity is our strength. No, it's not. The root of diversity is divisive, to divide. Unity is strength. Unity. And in America's case, it's unity of culture. And that starts with the Constitution and the rule of law. We may come from all different parts of the planet, but when you come over here, we can all agree that, hey, we're all American. You know? We have freedom of speech. It's codified in the Constitution. European countries don't have that. You literally have people in the UK and mainland Europe being arrested by their local constabulary for violating blasphemy laws because you talk shit about Islam. That doesn't happen here in the United States. But it's happening over there because they don't have true freedom of speech. And to back up our freedom of speech, we have the Second Amendment. Right? It's the last line of defense. These are very. That's why it aggravates me when I hear people saying, "What Americans don't have culture." Like, yeah, we do. You just can't see it because you grew up in it, right? You can't see the differences in how we behave and our thought processes and the ways our laws are structured and society in general when you're not seeing it abroad. We very much do have a culture, and it's a good one. And yeah, we have made some boo-boos that we have corrected. They needed to be corrected. Ending slavery is one. Ending Jim Crow was another one. The civil rights movement needed to happen. That's a good thing. We don't want second-class citizens in our country. But again, we're dealing with that again with the illegal aliens. We have adopted more second-class citizens. And the main argument that the Democrats are posing is like, well, if you get rid of all the illegals, who's going to pick the fruit and veggies? It's literally the same thing that the southern plantation owners were saying back in the 1860s of like, well, if you release all the slaves, who's going to pick the cotton? We killed off an entire generation of young men to finalize that argument 150 years ago. And we're fighting it again. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. We don't have second-class citizens in the United States. It should not be allowed. If we need workers, then we need to set up a proper temporary worker program like we used to do. Or we need to set aside an allotment of people to come in, But you can't just say, hey, I'll let you come in, but you got to be a farmhand or a ranch hand. People want to forge their own destiny. So you can't just pigeonhole people into one area. You got freedom of movement. So either you're legal and you can do what you want, or you're not. And that's what we're running into. Or somebody doesn't have an accent. There's also, yeah, well, that's true. But we're moving into a rule or do what they say now, the freedom country like China. Yeah, I mean, China has changed too. They were a communist society until they were admitted to the WF. And after that, they became very capitalistic. They're no longer communist. They're just gangster-run. They're just a gangster-run country. And it's sad to see. And it's really sad because I have nothing against the Chinese people in general. I mean, if you look at Taiwan is what mainland China should look like. Very peaceful, industrious people, beautiful people. And Taiwan's the last vestige of the actual legitimate government of mainland China, of all China, of one China. Not the communists. The communists are the rebels. They're the interlopers. Czech, who's a legitimate government, was forced onto Taiwan, but he held Taiwan. So what you see in Taiwan is what China should be. A democratic, peaceful people. And it's a damn shame that we got to deal with the commies. But we are not free of blame as Americans, not just individuals, but our leadership and our captains of industry of creating what China is today, which is a goddamn monster. What we're dealing with right now is a correction, a worldwide correction. because globalism is a failure. We have hollowed out our middle class just so some guy on the East Coast can get their jeans for $5 to $10 cheaper than if it had made here in the United States. And in doing so, they have hollowed out their communities, and they don't give a shit about their fellow citizens, their fellow countrymen. This is why they can't fill potholes in the community. This is why bridges are collapsing and infrastructure in general is crumbling, because the money that used to circulate within a community is going overseas. You don't have the anchor business and all the side businesses that were there to support that factory and the people working in them. All that tax money went overseas, enriching a belligerent communist government that's just turning our American dollars into Chinese warships so they can come and be belligerent and kill us with. Because too many Americans out there didn't give a shit about their fellow countrymen. Because they wanted it was a race to the bottom, to the lowest common denominator, the lowest dollar at the bottom of the barrel. Consequences be damned. Now, you don't have to believe in status. It's what happened. I lived it. You can't tell me what I didn't live through. I just told you earlier, I'm pushing 50. I saw what NAFTA did to the Midwest. I saw what it did to our factories, industries in general. I saw the Rust Belt become the Rust Belt. I was alive and shopping at Walmart when Old Man Walton was still in charge. And I remember going to Walmart, and he was very much about selling goods that were proudly made in the USA. As soon as Old Man Walton died, his kids sold out to the Chinese. I saw that happen in real time. Well, I can't tell with a two-word comment, you know. And I'm not trying to dogpile you, but I mean, yeah. I've seen this happen in my own lifetime. I distinctly remember going there for school shopping. We bought the little pencil box, you know, the cardboard one. Had the little plastic rulers, and some of the wood rulers, and they had the pencils, and the erasers, and the protractors, and everything. Everything. And I remember flipping it over, and the packaging had the American flag there, proudly made in the USA. Everything in the store, just about, was proudly made in the USA. As soon as Old Man Walton died, it all went to China. And you extrapolate that to just about every business. They're addicted to cheap slave labor, and they were okay with it because it wasn't happening here. It's ridiculous that you have $1 trillion corporation in Apple having their Apple products assembled in China, where they require suicide nets because they're being exploited so much that they'd rather kill themselves than put together another iPhone or an Apple Watch. And all because they can get it made cheaper over there because they don't want to follow labor laws or good environmental practices. And our American industrialists and our government allowed that to happen. So we're going through a correction. If you actually give a fuck about the environment, and pardon my French, you should want those industries and manufacturing companies to come back to the United States, because we actually enforce good environmental practices. You can actively go on the maps right now and look up the air quality over in China. It's horrible. Because they don't have the same, and the problem with that is that shit gets up in the jet streams and it blows to the east and it lands in California. And then you have these people like, oh, we gotta ban all these cars. We gotta turn everything electric. It's like, no, a lot of the pollution is coming from overseas, man. You can't do anything about that. Turning your gas-powered Honda Civic over to pick an electric car, I don't give a shit. It's not going to change it. You know? They're dumping all that shit into the ocean. The great garbage pile. It's about the size of Texas. Floating trash pile. It's ridiculous. You know? Not saying that we don't pollute, but not like that, man. Not like that. They're destroying the planet, but because it's happening over there and we don't see it on the regular or understand where this shit's coming from, we're okay with it, and we're saving a few bucks. You know, kind of like well, even the big push for the electric vehicles, right? Well, you have to have cobalt for the lithium-ion battery to work. You know, you have lithium, nickel, cobalt, and some other materials. Well, all the cobalt's coming from mines in Congo, in Africa, and they're literally using child slave labor to go dig out this highly toxic material out of the ground, so we can have batteries for our smartphones and RC cars and whatever the hell else lithium-ion batteries go into. Literal child slave labor from Congo. And everyone's okay with it. It's wrong. It's wrong on so many levels. Yeah, status, I'm cool. I'm cool. I am about the end of life because I'm about to go get loaded. But any parting questions before I end this? I know I've rambled on about a lot of different shit, so. Yep, no problem, Stats. Thank you for showing up, and the rest of you. I appreciate you being here too. And I hope it's nothing too crazy, but order will have to be maintained, and you're probably going to see some people on a video soon getting their heads kicked in by the authorities over in LA, and they're going to try to label these people as good boys who didn't do nothing wrong, even though they just threw a damn cobblestone through a cop's windshield going down the highway trying to kill them. So you're going to see people being handcuffed, tased, and pepper sprayed, and they're going to try to make these people out to be the victims, but you didn't see what the hell they were doing to the cops like 20 minutes earlier when the cameras weren't facing them. So harden your hearts. Order has to be maintained, and we are fighting for the soul of our country. It's a fight worth having, and it's important. It's important. So that's what I have to say. You guys take care. TC out.